I was pouring cereal when the moaning started. Not from me. Not from outside. From my phone. The video call connected itself, one of those glitchy sync errors I hadn't seen since 2018. My phone buzzed once, screen lit up, and boom, there she was. At first, it was just her hair, messy and tangled like she'd run through a storm. Then the camera tilted. Then the audio kicked in. Don't stop right there. I blinked. My spoon clattered into the bowl. I hadn't touched anything. I didn't press anything. The call wasn't incoming. It just appeared. Her voice was breathless. Her face flushed. Her back arched. The man behind her, definitely not me, laughed like he'd won a bet. I stood frozen in our kitchen, milk slowly soaking the cornflakes. My brain tried to do the math. Maybe it was an old video? A prank? A sick, messed up mistake? But then she looked straight at the camera, my camera, and whispered, "Let's say this one for tonight." That's when I realized what was happening. She thought she was recording. She wasn't. She was live. To me. I didn't say a word. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. I just stared as my wife cheated on me in real time, in high definition, right there on my cracked phone screen between the countertop crumbs and the fridge still humming from last night's leftovers. My name didn't matter. The number of years we'd been married didn't matter. The promises, the therapy sessions, the New Year's resolutions, none of it mattered. She laughed louder now, her voice breaking into a sound I'd never heard before. And I swear, right then, with the TV in the other room still paused on a documentary about wolves, with my half-eaten breakfast turning into sludge, I reached down, pulled out the suitcase from under the table, and started packing. Not because I wanted to. Because there was no version of the world left where I could stay. I left the bowl of cereal exactly where it was, milk now turning a sickly gray, and walked into the hallway, phone clutched in my hand like it was evidence from a crime scene. I couldn't even hear the sounds anymore. Not really. They were still coming through the speaker, sure, his low grunts, her breathy whispers, bedsheets rustling, but my brain had slammed a steel door shut behind my ears. The sounds were there, but I was somewhere else. I stared at the wall. Not at a painting. Not at the thermostat. Just the wall. Because for some reason, the blankness of it was the only thing I could manage. Everything else, her voice, her body, that man's tattooed arm around her waist, was too much. And yet, even in the middle of that frozen trance, I couldn't bring myself to hang up. I couldn't look away. I kept watching, holding the phone with two shaking hands like it might leap out and bite me. And then it happened. Her voice changed. Not the pitch, not the words. The tone. She said, "Wait, did I hit record?" I saw her reach toward the phone. My phone. Her smile dimmed just slightly. Just enough for her to squint. And in that moment, barely a fraction of a second, I saw her face crumple. Confusion. Realization. Horror. "Oh my God," she mouthed. Then the screen went black. Call ended. I didn't move. I didn't scream. I just stared at the call-ended screen like it might rewind itself, show me a different outcome, prove I imagined it. But it didn't. It sat there, smug and frozen in my hand, like the final frame of a bad movie. That's when my body kicked in. Not my brain, he was long gone. But my hands, my legs, my gut, they started moving before I gave permission. I went to the closet, grabbed the first duffel I could find, her old gym bag, the one that still smelled faintly of lavender deodorant, and started stuffing it. Socks, shirts, my laptop charger. I didn't pack with logic. I packed with panic. I didn't even bring underwear. I threw on the first hoodie I saw, grabbed my car keys, and left the house without shoes. I didn't even notice until I got into the car and felt the rubber of the brake pedal against my bare foot. It was surreal, me, sitting in the driver's seat, heart racing, phone buzzing nonstop on the dashboard, and no shoes on my damn feet. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove. A mile down the road, the phone started ringing again. It was her. I turned it off. Another call. Then a text. "Please, please pick up." Then another. "Daryl." I didn't mean to please call me. That name. My name. It looked foreign now. Another message came through before I could even blink. "You weren't supposed to see that. It's not what you think." I almost laughed. Not what I think. You mean not what I saw, in crystal clear video, from a live angle 2 feet from your sweat-covered face? She kept calling. Over and over. Eventually, I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat and pulled into a gas station. That's where I am now. Sitting on the curb outside the convenience store, clutching a warm bottle of Sprite, because I couldn't even focus enough to pick water. The bags at my feet. My phone is still lighting up every few seconds. I haven't opened a single message. I can't. Because the thing is, when someone accidentally shows you who they are, you can't unsee it. You don't get to rewind the tape and pretend it was just a misfire. She said she was at Bailey's. She said she needed a quiet night. She said I was being too sensitive lately. And now? She's probably scrambling for lies. Probably already planning some twisted story to explain how the man I saw, who, by the way, had a crescent moon tattoo on his back, a detail I somehow noticed in my shock, was just a mistake. A moment of weakness. A lapse in judgment. No, that wasn't a lapse. That was a life. A secret life I was never supposed to see. And I have a sinking feeling this call wasn't the beginning. It was the finale. And I've just been too blind to know I've been in the audience the whole time. I sat on that curb outside the gas station until the sky began to shift from pitch black to that dull, dusty gray that always seems to come before dawn. It wasn't peaceful. It felt like the world was holding its breath, as if it knew what I'd seen and didn't know how to react either. Every time the door behind me swung open and the little chime jingled, I flinched. At one point, a delivery guy asked me if I was okay. I said yes, even though I looked like a man who just watched his soul leak out through his phone screen. The air smelled faintly of burnt pretzels and exhaust. That weird gas station combination. I remember focusing on it hard, like if I could just anchor myself to something small and real, maybe my chest wouldn't feel like it was being crushed. But it didn't help. The weight didn't lift. The memory of her voice, of that voice, was still stuck in my ears, like chewing gum smashed into carpet. My phone had stopped buzzing about an hour earlier. No more calls. No more texts. Nothing. That silence was worse than the messages. It meant she was either scrambling to come up with a story or had given up entirely. And I didn't know which terrified me more. I finally stood, legs stiff, and walked back to my car. The windshield was covered in condensation. I climbed into the driver's seat and just sat there, staring out into the lot, letting the engine idle. The bag I'd packed was still open in the back seat, half-zipped and sagging like it was exhausted too. I opened the glove compartment and pulled out the emergency snack bar Lauren had insisted I keep there in case of earthquakes. That had been one of her things, constant anxiety about disasters. She read prepper blogs, bought first aid kits for every room. The irony wasn't lost on me as I bit into that stale bar while sitting in the middle of my own personal collapse. Eventually, I decided to drive not home, not yet, but somewhere I could think. I ended up at a 24-hour laundromat on the edge of town. Don't ask me why. Something about the dull hum of the dryers, the fluorescent lights, and the empty plastic chairs made it feel disconnected from everything, like it existed outside real life. I sat down in the far corner and finally opened my phone. The screen was littered with notifications. 10 missed calls. 7 voicemails. 21 texts. I scrolled through the first few. Please call me. It's not what it looked like. I didn't mean for that to happen. Then one that stood out. We need to talk. I need you to hear me. I deleted it without opening it. I didn't need to hear her. I had already seen everything I needed, but something inside me wouldn't let it go. I needed to know if this was a one-time thing or if I had been living in a lie far longer than I realized. So, I went back through our texts. The old ones. Months and months worth. I read them backwards, from now to then. And what I found made my stomach turn. Subtle changes. Gaps. Sudden mood swings I had brushed off as work stress. Nights out that had started lasting longer. Messages from people I didn't recognize, mostly women, but always vague, never anything specific. I remembered one Friday she'd come home late, smelled like hotel shampoo. I asked if she'd gone to a spa. She'd laughed and said, "Don't be weird, Daryl." And I hadn't pushed, because that's who I'd become. A man so afraid of sounding jealous that I'd stopped asking questions altogether. And then, deep in the thread, I found a text I had completely forgotten. It was from 3 months ago. A random Tuesday. She had texted, "Might be late tonight. Bailey and I are doing vision boards." I'd replied with a thumbs up. Vision boards. Now I knew better. That was probably the same hotel. The same man. Maybe even the same wine glass. I dropped my phone onto the folding table in front of me and rubbed my face hard with both hands, like I could somehow scrub the thoughts out of my skull. But the truth had already burrowed too deep. This didn't just happen last night. This had been happening. For months. Maybe longer. She had been building a second life in the shadows of mine. A life with secrets and lipstick-stained wine glasses and hotel rooms I was never supposed to know about. And the worst part? If not for a stupid glitchy video call, I still wouldn't. That thought hit me harder than anything else. Not the betrayal, not the lies, not even the other man. What gutted me was the realization that she never would have told me. Not ever. I would have kept living in my tidy little bubble, folding her laundry while she was off rehearsing the same moans I just heard through my phone. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, and felt something inside me quietly snap. Not with anger. Not yet. With loss. The kind of loss you feel when something invisible dies inside you. When the trust goes. When the foundation you thought you were standing on turns out to be sand. And I realized, right then and there, that no matter how much she begged, I could never go back to not knowing. I had crossed a line I didn't even see. And everything on the other side looked like rubble. The laundromat started filling with morning sun. Thin streaks of light cut through the blinds and landed on the cold tile floor like fingers pointing at my stupidity. I hadn't slept. I hadn't moved. My body ached, but I was numb. The dryers continued spinning someone else's clothes like the world was too bored to stop for my life falling apart. I finally picked up my phone and opened her last message. Please talk to me. I'll explain everything. I swear to you, it's not what you think. I stared at those words for a long time. It's not what you think. The phrase felt like a cruel joke. If it wasn't what I thought, then what was it? A performance? A therapy exercise? Some postmodern art piece? I almost wrote back. Almost. But instead, I typed 2 words. Who else? I didn't send it. I just stared at it. My thumb hovered above the blue arrow for 5 full minutes before I deleted it and locked my phone. It didn't matter what she said. I wouldn't believe her anymore. What I needed now was truth, and not the version she was going to hand me with trembling hands and mascara tears. I needed proof. And I had an idea where to start. Bailey. The mythical friend. The coworker I'd heard about for the past year. The one who had become the convenient excuse for every late night, every missing Saturday morning, every change in plans. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I had never once actually met Bailey. Not in person. Not even in a Zoom call during the pandemic when people were introducing their dogs on camera. Lauren talked about her constantly, and yet somehow, Bailey remained a ghost. So I did something I'd never done before. I opened Lauren's old iPad. It was in the glove box of the car, under a pile of receipts and napkins. She'd used it mostly for Pinterest and recipe videos, but I remembered once she linked her contacts to it. I knew the passcode. Of course I did. Her birthday, 0907. Back when I thought dates meant something. It opened. The screen loaded slowly, ancient thing, cracked in the corner, but the contacts were still there. I scrolled until I found Bailey L., tapped it, and checked the number. Then I did what any shattered man running on caffeine, fumes, and betrayal would do. I copied the number, opened a new browser tab, and dropped it into a reverse lookup app I'd used once before when my cousin got catfished. The name that came up was not Bailey. It was Martin Lafferty, a 42-year-old massage therapist. My stomach turned. I tried to justify it. Maybe Bailey used her husband's number? Maybe it was registered under his name? Maybe. No. I knew what this meant. Bailey didn't exist. Or if she did, she wasn't the one my wife was meeting. Martin was. And that meant Lauren hadn't just lied about what she was doing. She created an entire character to hide it. A fake friend. A decoy. Every time I'd waved goodbye while she drove off with a gym bag and a too sweet kiss on the cheek, she was going to him. I slammed the iPad shut and let out a low, ugly sound. Not a scream. Not a sob. Just something raw and broken. The sound of realizing you've been made the fool, deliberately, repeatedly, and artfully. I needed more. I needed to know just how far this had gone. I drove to the only place I could think of where no one would ask questions, my brother's storage unit. He gave me a spare key years ago when he moved to Arizona. Said if I ever needed it, I could use it. It was dusty, hot, and smelled like paint thinner, but it had one thing I needed more than anything else: a folding table and a box full of my old tech-era hard drives, flash drives, the dash cam I never installed. I pulled out an old backup drive and plugged it into my laptop. Years ago, Lauren had asked me to sync our phones to the computer in case of cloud issues. She didn't know I still had the drive. Neither did I, to be honest, until that moment. It was all there. Photos, texts, call logs, even deleted ones. It took me over an hour to sort through it, but when I did, the ground fell out from under me again. There were dozens of deleted messages between Lauren and someone listed as MH. Some of them were benign, flirty, casual. Others were unmistakable. I miss you already. Next weekend? Same hotel? Wear that thing I like. The oldest one was from nearly 10 months ago. 10. Almost an entire year. While I was planning our anniversary weekend in Nashville, she was sending pictures to a man named MH from the office bathroom. I couldn't even cry. I just sat there, hunched over the laptop, reading the digital obituary of my marriage. I had thought the video call was the worst of it. But no, the worst part wasn't what I saw. It was realizing how much I never saw, and how many people knew. I didn't drive anywhere for a while after that. I just sat in the storage unit, listening to the metallic creak of the corrugated door with every gust of wind. The laptop sat open on the table, the deleted messages from Lauren and MH still glowing on the screen like an accusation. I hadn't moved for what felt like an hour, except for the occasional glance at my phone. No new texts. No calls. Just silence. A vacuum that should have felt like peace but only made the noise in my head louder. There's a kind of betrayal that doesn't burn at first, it sinks. Quiet, heavy, settling deep in your bones like a winter chill you can't shake. That's where I was now. Numb and heavy, weighed down by things I hadn't wanted to know but couldn't unlearn. I finally stood up and grabbed the duffel from the floor. I needed to move. Do something. Find someone. Anything but sit with that laptop and the screenshots I had taken of my wife's secret life. I drove back into town and parked in the lot of a diner we used to go to when things were good, before she got too busy, before her phone started living face down on the nightstand. It was a mistake, picking this place. Everything inside was a memory I didn't want. The green vinyl booths. The smell of bacon and burnt coffee. The table near the window where we used to sit and people watch and laugh like we weren't slowly cracking apart. I ordered nothing. Just water. Sat there nursing it like it would somehow fix my life. And then I did something I had avoided until now. I called Matt. Matt and I had been friends since we were 12. He was the kind of guy who laughed too loudly at his own jokes and always wore hoodies in summer. Lauren liked him. Maybe too much, now that I thought about it. But I trusted him. More than anyone. Or I used to. He picked up on the third ring. Dude, what's up? He asked, too casually. You vanish off the grid and don't return texts. Everything okay? I didn't answer right away. My mouth was dry. I cleared my throat. I need to ask you something. And I need you to be honest. There was a pause. Then, okay, shoot. You remember Bailey? Lauren's coworker. Another pause. Yeah, he said. Too quickly. Too flatly. Have you ever met her? He hesitated. I could hear it, his breathing changed. Well, no, but I've heard about her. Lauren talks about her all the time. I took a breath. She doesn't exist, Matt. Silence. What? She's not real. The number Lauren gave for Bailey? Belongs to a massage therapist named Martin. A man. Not a friend. A partner. Matt didn't respond. And suddenly, I knew. You knew, I whispered. No, Daryl, I didn't know no. I had suspicions. I didn't want to believe it. I felt a wave of nausea rise in my throat. You didn't want to believe it, so you said nothing? You saw me planning our anniversary trip, and you said nothing. I thought maybe I was wrong, he said. She's your wife, man. I didn't want to blow up your life over a hunch. No, I snapped. You didn't want to get involved. You didn't want to lose her friendship. Matt didn't deny it. That silence told me more than any confession could. He had seen the late-night texts, the sketchy excuses, maybe even recognized the man from some passing glance or photo Lauren had let slip. And he stayed quiet. Like everyone else. I hung up on him mid-sentence. Didn't even let him finish. I didn't want apologies. I wanted the truth, and I already had it. The circle around me wasn't just full of liars, it was full of cowards. When I got back to the car, I stared at my phone and scrolled through old contacts, trying to think of someone, anyone, who could give me clarity. My eyes landed on a name I hadn't thought of in months, Erica. Erica had been Lauren's friend first. They worked together years ago before Erica moved out of state. But she and I always got along. And if anyone had been close enough to notice cracks in Lauren's behavior, it was her. So I called. She picked up, voice groggy and confused. Daryl? Wow, it's been a while. Everything okay? I didn't bother with pleasantries. I told her everything. The accidental call. The deleted texts. The fake friend. All of it. She didn't interrupt. When I finally stopped talking, she sighed. Long, slow, full of something heavier than I expected. I was afraid this would happen, she said. That sentence hit me like a punch. What do you mean? I I always suspected. Even back when we worked together. She flirted with anything that breathed. Daryl, clients, bartenders, her boss. But I thought it was just harmless, until she started canceling plans last year. She stopped talking to me after I called her out once. She told me to stop judging her choices. I never knew who the guy was, but I knew something was off. My mouth was dry again. Why didn't you tell me? I thought you knew, she said, almost apologetic. I honestly thought you were ignoring it. I didn't want to be the one to wreck your marriage. You weren't, I muttered. She did that herself. And then, quieter, almost to myself. But you could have warned me. I'm sorry, Daryl. I really am. But I didn't feel better. I felt worse. Because now I understood that the betrayal hadn't been private. It had happened in public. People had seen it. Whispers behind my back. Sympathetic looks I didn't know how to read at the time. A secret that everyone tiptoed around because no one wanted to be the one to break the news to the fool. And that fool was me. The joke wasn't just on me. It was me. I didn't sleep. Not even a second. By the time the sun was up, I'd parked the car outside a strip of anonymous short-stay motels and picked the cheapest one with curtains thick enough to keep the world out. Room 204. The lock stuck a little, and the carpet smelled like old bleach and cigarette ghosts, but at least it was a door I could close. I sat on the bed and stared at the wall for hours. No phone, no laptop, no sound, just me and the slow, aching throb of a brain that had replayed the same 15 seconds of video over and over again, looking for a version that didn't exist. One where she looked into the camera and saw me. One where she hesitated. One where she stopped. But she didn't stop. The problem with betrayal isn't the act. It's the smile that came with it. Around noon, my stomach finally demanded something. I walked 2 blocks to a gas station and bought the first thing I saw: a bag of sour cream chips, a bottle of water, and a cheap toothbrush. I didn't even taste the chips. Just kept chewing to keep my jaw from clenching. Then I went back to the motel. And she was there, standing by the door of my room. At first, I didn't recognize her. Her hair was pulled back, no makeup, and she wore an oversized sweatshirt I hadn't seen before. Her arms were crossed, but not the angry kind, the desperate kind. The kind you wear when you're bracing for impact. I stopped in my tracks, almost dropping the bag. My voice vanished. I couldn't even get out a curse or a question. I just stared. I knew you'd come here, she said softly. How? My voice cracked like I hadn't spoken in days. You always drive here when you need to think. The little bakery down the street. You said it calmed your brain. I guessed. I didn't answer. I didn't let her in. She didn't ask to come in, either. She just stood there, like she didn't know how to move. I need to talk to you, she said, finally. No, I replied. You need to listen. She looked at me, really looked. Her face was pale, raw, nothing like the woman I'd seen on that screen. This version looked smaller. She didn't wear her armor of excuses or her lipstick of distraction. Okay, she whispered. I unlocked the door and stepped aside. She followed. I didn't offer her a seat. I didn't take one myself. I know about Martin, I said flatly. I know about the fake contact. I know about the deleted texts. I know you've been lying for almost a year. She didn't flinch. Not at Martin. Not even at almost a year. Then you know everything, she said. That pissed me off more than anything. The way she said it, like the matter was closed. Like the damage was cataloged and filed away, and now we could all move on. No, I know what I saw. I don't know why. I don't know how long you've been planning this. I don't know if you ever planned to tell me. I didn't, she admitted, voice small. I didn't think I'd get caught. I blinked. That's your defense? No, there's no defense. There's only the mess. I wanted to scream. I wanted to rip the curtains off the wall and throw something. But instead, I asked the only question that mattered now. Why him? She took a moment. Her eyes darted to the carpet. Because he made me feel seen. That hit harder than any scream could have. I saw you, I snapped. I spent years seeing you. Listening to you. Cooking for you. Fixing your car. Planning your birthday dinners. And you threw it away for a man with a massage table and a fake name? It wasn't about him, she whispered. It was about escaping. That caught me off guard. From what? From being a wife. From being your wife. There it was. The real truth. The kind that cuts bone deep. You didn't want a divorce, I said. You just wanted me to not exist. She said nothing. And somehow, that said everything. I should have told you, she said eventually. But every time I tried, you were nice. You were kind. And I hated myself more for lying. I laughed bitterly. So it's my fault for loving you? No, she said, eyes filling. It's my fault for not deserving it. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to shove every apology back into her throat. But something stopped me. Not forgiveness. Not pity. Clarity. She didn't come to apologize. She came because the game was over, and she had nowhere left to hide. I'm not staying, I said, stepping past her toward the window. I know, she replied, and I don't want closure. I wouldn't believe me either, she murmured. We stood there in silence for a long time. The kind of silence where words don't matter anymore. The kind that wraps around a dying thing and watches it turn to dust. Finally, I turned to her. Leave the key on the table when you go. She nodded. I walked out into the bright sun, blinking away the burn. And for the first time in months, I didn't look back. I didn't go far. Just across town to a used bookstore with a parking lot no one ever checked. I parked behind a rusted-out pickup that hadn't moved in weeks and sat there with the windows cracked, the engine off, and my thoughts grinding like gears in a machine long overdue for maintenance. The sun was too bright. The air too still. Everything outside the windshield felt loud and pointless. Kids biked past. A woman argued with someone on speakerphone. A dog barked from behind a gate. The world kept moving forward while I sat in park, stuck somewhere between the before and the after. I hadn't turned my phone back on since leaving the motel. The charger cable lay tangled on the passenger seat like a question mark. I stared at it for a while before plugging the phone in and pressing the power button, feeling more dread than curiosity. It buzzed immediately. 47 new notifications. Missed calls. Voicemails. Messages from unknown numbers. Some were probably her. Some were probably people who had just found out. Because that's the thing about secrets. Once they break, they don't bleed in private. They burst. And this one? It spilled everywhere. The first message was from my sister, Mallory. Hey, I just heard from Mom. Are you okay? Lauren came by the house. She said you ran off. What the hell is going on? Then another. Mom says Lauren is crying in the driveway. Dad told her to leave. Do you want me to come get you? I read the messages 3 times before realizing my hands were shaking. Lauren had gone to my parents' house. After everything, after the call, the lies, the motel, she had gone to the one place I still had untouched. And she brought her tears with her. I opened the voicemail she left for me that morning. Her voice was brittle, like old paper tearing at the edges. I know you hate me. I deserve it. But please don't shut me out of everything. I talked to your mom. I didn't mean to make things worse. I just needed someone to tell me how badly I messed up. I told her the truth. Some of it. I didn't want her to find out another way. My jaw clenched so hard it popped. She didn't tell my mother out of guilt. She told her to control the narrative. To get there before I did. To cry first. To sound fragile. Repentant. To get ahead of the story. I called Mallory. She picked up fast. Where are you? She asked immediately. Why did she go to Mom and Dad? She said she didn't know how to reach you. She looked like hell, Daryl. Like she'd been crying for hours. Good, I said. Too fast, too sharp. Then I softened. I didn't want them involved. Well, too late. But listen, she didn't tell them everything. Just said you caught her cheating, but made it sound like a fling. A one-time mistake. Mom was confused. Dad's furious. I think they're waiting to hear from you. Of course. She was rewriting the story already. Shortening it. Cleaning it. Taking the jagged, humiliating mess and shaping it into something tragic but forgivable. A slip. A stumble. Not a campaign. I'll talk to them, I said. But not now. Mallory hesitated. There's more. I braced myself. She left something in Mom's kitchen. An envelope. Said it was just in case. What was it? A copy of a document. Something from a lawyer. It had your name on it. And hers. What kind of document? A draft agreement. Property division. I think she was preparing to ask for a divorce. I sat back in the seat and closed my eyes. She wasn't just cheating. She was planning her exit. Carefully. Strategically. Even before I knew. Maybe even before the affair started. The timeline was blurry now. I didn't know which betrayal came first, the physical one or the legal one. She also had a second envelope, Mallory said, voice lower. She didn't leave it. But I saw your name and the word, account, scribbled on the corner. What kind of account? I don't know. But she got nervous when I asked. Of course she did. The financial betrayal. That's when it really clicked. She hadn't just wanted out. She wanted control. To leave on her terms. To rewrite the story, keep the house, divide the assets her way. And if the call hadn't happened, if the video hadn't accidentally gone to me, she probably would have pulled it off. I would have been sitting at home, blissfully loyal, while she was packing boxes in secret and moving money into a new account. Maybe she never planned to say goodbye at all. Just disappear. I didn't go back to the house. I didn't need to. I'd already memorized every shadow in that place, every creaky floorboard, every photo frame on the wall that now felt like a lie. I let Lauren keep it. Not because I was being noble, I just didn't want to live somewhere that smelled like her shampoo and betrayal at the same time. Instead, I called my cousin Jonah, who owned a tiny guest house behind his repair shop about 20 minutes outside the city. I'd helped him paint it 3 summers ago. He still owed me for breaking my drill. He tossed me the spare key without asking a single question. That's the kind of friend you hold on to. I moved in that night. A mattress on the floor. A tiny fridge with a flickering bulb. But it was mine, and no one had ever cheated on me there. The silence hit different in that space. Not the suffocating kind from before, but the kind that lets you actually hear yourself think. And what I heard, mostly, was grief. Grief for the life I thought I had. Grief for the man I had let myself become, careful, quiet, constantly afraid of rocking a boat that was already sinking. I stayed up late rereading our old texts, not because I missed her, but because I needed to understand how I had missed everything. Every clue, every warning, every sign. Lauren tried contacting me again, dozens of times. Her messages grew longer, more desperate. She apologized. She begged to talk just one more time. She sent a photo of us from our anniversary in Asheville with the caption, "We were happy once." But she was wrong. We looked happy. We weren't. And that's what made me finally answer. I didn't call her. I wrote her a letter. It was the only way I could say what needed to be said cleanly, calmly, and without interruption. I wrote, "Lauren, I don't hate you. I wish I did. It would be easier than sorting through the layers of disappointment, sadness, and disbelief. But hate gives you too much space in my head. And I need that space for myself now. You hurt me in ways you probably still don't fully understand. You broke things that can't be put back together, not because I refuse, but because you made those pieces into something else, something I don't recognize anymore. I want you to know that I'm not going to fight you for the house, or the car, or the furniture. I don't want those things. What I do want is peace. Real, quiet, honest peace. So I'm letting go. Not because I forgive you. Not yet. But because I forgive myself. For staying too long. For believing too hard. For loving without boundaries. You were not my ending. You were just a wrong turn. I'm finding my way back now. And I'll be fine. I mailed it and never checked for a response. That was 2 months ago. Since then, I've started rebuilding. Slowly. Imperfectly. But with purpose. I go to therapy twice a week. I take long walks without checking my phone. I started painting again badly, but with joy. I even reconnected with my sister, Mallory, who made me promise that if I ever suspect someone's lying again, I'll come to her first. I haven't dated. I'm not there yet. But I did meet someone at the cafe down the street. Her name's Elise. She likes mint tea and reads too fast. We talk sometimes. Nothing big. Nothing deep. Just 2 people sharing air. And for now, that's enough. The pain didn't disappear, but it stopped being the loudest thing in the room. And that, I think, is the beginning of something good. Not perfect, but real.